no means a comprehensive IELTS course, but this is an introduction to give you some basic tips so you know what you're getting yourself into if you sign up for IELTS. And hopefully you will leave here with 2 or 3 ideas that can help you in general in life when you're speaking to other people. First things first, as you can see, yes, you can do well on IELTS. I promise. Some months you want to go, oh, I feel so scared. I feel nervous when I think about IELTS. But you don't have to feel this way. When you get informed, when you do your research and you take time, you can enter any situation more confidently. IELTS is just a test, and it measures your ability to speak and understand English language. So usually this is part of admissions requirement if you're trying to go abroad somewhere to study. There are also some employers that will ask you to take an English language test if you want to work for them. It is just a test to make sure that if I speak to you in English, can you understand? Can you respond? If I give you something to read, can you read it? Do you understand? There's 4 sections that you're being judged on or scored from a scale of 0 to 9. 9 being like ekdom perfect, no mistakes. Maybe I couldn't even get a 9, right? That's the benchmark. And 0 means like Angreji Aurena. In each section, listening, reading, writing, speaking, you will be marked on this band. And then your overall score is the average of those 4 topics. We're going to focus on the speaking section because this is the place that most people feel scared and they worry about, especially when English isn't your first language. So the speaking section is broken down into different segments. The first one, you're just asked basic questions about you, your hobbies, your likes, your dislikes, what do you like to do, where did you study? This is kind of like the first date questions. If you're just going to meet someone at a coffee shop and you have never met them before, these are the questions that you would be asking to get to know someone. So this is just, who are you? Where are you from? Now, part 2 is where everyone gets nervous. This is where you are given a booklet and you have to write down some points before you give a talk for 2 minutes. I don't know if you've given a presentation in school, you have to stand up in front of the class and give some information. It's something like that. But you have notes in front of you that you can reference and look at while you're talking. So if you're talking and then suddenly and you forget what you're saying, you can look down at your notes, remind yourself, and then continue. Now in part 2, they give you talking points and they give you specific questions that you should address. You're not just talking out of nowhere. You have questions that you need to answer and you have notes. Now the third part is a little bit tricky because we call these abstract questions, creative kind of questions. If I held up my water bottle and I asked you what color is the lid, you can easily say blue, right? This is straightforward. But then if I asked you an abstract question, what are the other kinds of uses that we could have for this water bottle? Or what other things could we use with this water bottle? You have to be a little bit creative. Oh, well, maybe you could dump out the water and fill it with trail mix and take it trekking. All right. So just thinking about like a creative alternative. And sometimes in part 3, you're asked about your opinion on something. Is it better to go to school straight after graduation or take time off to get a job? Could one day books and newspapers disappear? These are fun questions. It's not going to be more than 5 minutes and they will mirror your ability. So if you're stuck in the first 2-3 questions that they ask and you're kind of blank and just sitting there and not able to respond, they're not going to keep asking you more difficult questions. How are you graded? When you're speaking, you're going to get points for these different sections. And your overall speaking score will be the average of this criteria. Fluency is not speaking fast. Most of the students that we work with at Learning House, they think, oh, my English is like katamboyo because I speak slowly. That's not the case. You can speak well and fluent and coherent and speak slowly. But when your speech is broken and you have a lot of and there are a lot of hesitancies, it's not like a smooth river, and that's what we're going for. We're not going for like a rushing waterfall. We want to go for a smooth river, smooth tone of the way that you speak. And how do you do that? you relax. And that's one of the hardest things to do when you're in a testing environment and you're nervous, your heartbeat is going up. Sometimes your breath becomes shallow and you're gasping for air. Coherence is basically the ability to stick things together. So connecting words, conjunctions, and, or, these kinds of filler words that help you link your ideas and your sentences together can boost your score. The next is vocabulary. And how can you improve your score here? You have to learn new words. So your goal, if you do nothing else after this webinar, is bookmark thesaurus.com or sign up for a word of the day. So you could download an app, and there are so many different email sites. Just type in word of the day in Google, and every day you will get a new word. And when you learn a new word every day, it's like you're expanding your toolbox, or you're adding more colors to your palette. So instead of just drawing a black and white painting, now you have different colors because you have more vocabulary to draw from. Someone who doesn't have a huge vocabulary, their stories are going to sound a little bit boring, right? So I go to market, I eat rice, I buy vegetables. There's no description there. What kinds of vegetables? What's the color? Right? How do you go to market? And this is how you increase your score here. Next, grammar. So this is Foundations 101. Most people learn this in school, other people don't. Sometimes you need a refresher about verb tenses, how to form complex sentence structure, how to use different words in your sentences, and how to use correct grammar. Sometimes you need to take a refresher class, and that's absolutely okay. And this can be one of the ways that you can hold yourself accountable when you're studying. And it's kind of like going to the gym, and when you hire a personal trainer, you know that trainer is waiting for you at 5 o'clock. And if you're not there, then your money is gone. So signing up for a class can help trigger your mind. Okay, I got to study. I need to work on my vocabulary. Pronunciation really just comes down to, can I understand what you are saying? Depending on where you're from, so clearly I have an American accent, so the way that I speak my vowels are a little bit harsh. So some of the confusing points for Nepali students is mixing up the B sound, like B as in ball, and V as in viper. And you don't always pick it up yourself because it's yourself speaking. How do you find those mistakes? You record yourself speaking. So get a tape recorder and play it back and listen. Can you understand yourself? If we're all going on a field trip tomorrow to England, their vowels are very round. Australians, people from New Zealand, right? So depending on where you're from in the world, your English is going to sound a little bit different. But at the end of the day, can you understand what's being said? So this also comes up in the listening section, because sometimes in the listening section, you're listening to a tape and the person is from UK, or they're from Australia, or even a Kiwi accent from New Zealand. And you're thinking, if you don't know what they're saying, and you don't understand that there's different varieties of a word, depending on the accent, you might be confused. But for the speaking section, when you are speaking to the person, your pronunciation has to be clear so they know exactly what you're talking about. Whether or not you take IELTS or you're going in for an interview, the number one tip is always eye contact. It shows engagement. There's a level of interest, and it shows somebody that you're showing up, you're there, you're present. If I gave this full presentation looking down or looking to the side, you're going to think that I'm not interested, or I'm distracted, or I'm involved in something else, and I'm not paying attention to you. So same thing with an interview. I don't know if you've ever seen someone and you're talking to them and their eyes are like going all of, hello, how are you doing today? And their eyes are everywhere. And you think, okay, are they nervous? Something going on? I don't really understand. So eye contact is the number one communication tip, because there's a level of engagement. The next thing is confidence. Now, there's a phrase that I love to tell our students is fake it till you make it. Everybody is insecure. Everyone has something that they don't feel great about. But when you show up and you present yourself in a confident way, people also listen to you differently, and you think about yourself differently. So when it comes down to the way that you dress, going into an interview, when we're thinking about our posture, right? So a confident posture, sometimes you hear about this superhuman pose, right? Where you're standing up and you're putting your hands on your hips. because that elevates your shoulders, it elongates your neck, straightens your back, and that also helps your vocal channel. If I'm talking and I'm looking down, it constricts my vocal chamber. My sound is not going to carry in the same way. Along with all of that is no matter if you're sitting or standing, you want to ground yourself. So right now, wherever you are, feel your feet on the ground and feel your toes, feel your feet. Oftentimes when you're nervous, your mind checks out, your anxiety kicks in, and this basic sensation of feet on the ground is one of the grounding principles that you can use to remind yourself to calm and collect yourself. And a deep breath, and then you begin speaking. If someone asks you a question and you don't take that moment to collect yourself, and you just start speaking very fast, and then you think, what was the question? Can you ask again? So having this moment to collect yourself and to have that confidence can really set the tone for what happens next. Pretend like you're talking to a friend, right? So sometimes we get into this scenario where, oh, they're judging me, or this is the visa interview person, or this is the exam proctor, and they're above me. Relax and stay cool and calm. This can help a lot. Before your exam, test taking 101, you must do the work. The work that you put in before is the result that you're going to get after. So how can you do that? Learn the exam format. I've talked briefly about what to expect on the speaking. Learn about the reading section, learn about what happens in the listening section, and time yourself. So this is one of the biggest things that a lot of people forget to do. They sign up for the IELTS exam and they go take it without understanding that many of the sections are timed. So how can you improve? You practice. You time yourself for an hour. You read for an hour. You write for an hour. And you practice. Record yourself, speak English with friends. And I know this is uncomfortable, but make a game out of it. Say, okay, for the next 15 minutes, we're gonna get on a Zoom call. We're only speaking in English. Read. And I'm not talking reading Facebook posts or Instagram. I'm talking read quality writing that can push you to learn new words. Read things that you are engaged in and that keep your attention. You don't have to force yourself to read a scientific journal or published research because you're probably going to get bored and then you're not going to feel motivated and you're not going to keep doing it. Read things that interest you. And if you need suggestions on what to read, send us a message at Learning House because there's so much great stuff online. And then this is how you learn. The other thing is study your mistakes. So when you record yourself and when you're speaking and you hear repeating words again and again and again, make a note for yourself and say, okay, I'm not going to keep saying good because I say good on everything. Everything is good, 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 good. So then think, what other words can I use to describe something? Here's our big challenge. And most people think that it's difficult or impossible to learn online. But guess what? It's actually a benefit to you. And when you learn online, you have to be responsible for yourself. You have to manage your time. You have to think creatively. So take responsibility for what works for you and use that while you are studying and learning online. There are YouTube videos, there are free classes, there are free websites. There are so many options for you to learn, but you have to take the initiative. Even reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, what works for you? Can you suggest something? You have to speak up and you have to get the help that you need. And never, never, never give up. If you feel frustrated, if you feel like, oh, I'm not learning anything, I'm not progressing, don't give up. Reach out for help. Ask somebody, whether it's a friend, a classmate, or a colleague, a teacher, whoever. The other thing that can help you when you're preparing for a test, whether it's IELTS, SAT, GRE, LSAT, whatever, is you have to set goals. So if you say to yourself, I'm taking this exam in December. What do I need to do in November? When you're a student, you just think, oh, middle test bully. Okay, tonight I'm gonna study. I'm gonna learn everything. And you don't plan, you're not gonna have a good result. If we're gonna run a marathon in February, we don't wanna wait until the end of January to start training. We wanna slowly build up our fitness base so we feel comfortable by the time marathon date comes around. As long as you take time to get help, it will be there. I am 100% an advocate for you getting a journal. So get a copy, get a journal, decorate it, find a color that you really like, and use it to track progress. Use it to write down new words. Use it to write down questions that you may want to ask somebody. Having that journal, having something written will keep you organized and keep all of your learning in one place, so you don't have notes that you're losing, and you can also see your progress. Write things down because this will also help motivate you. When you see improvement, you want to keep doing the thing. If you always feel like Dookie, I don't like this, Katija, I'm so bored, you're not going to do it. You're going to stop and get frustrated. The journal is a learning tool, but it's also going to be a motivation factor for you to keep learning and to stay engaged. Practice, 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 and don't feel shy. If you make a mistake, you keep going, but you have to be disciplined and set time to work. It won't happen naturally. You can learn, but you have to put the intention first. On Learning House page, we post activities and websites and learning resources that you can use for free. Always so encouraged to see people taking action and taking responsibility for their own learning. And so by being here, you guys are doing just that.